Biological evidence can be a crucial piece of data to solve severe crimes such as sexual assault and homicide. The biology section of the Midwest Regional Forensic Lab is able to test samples of evidence that are less than half of the size of this blood sample. The first step in this process is for the serology scientists to test evidence for pertinent DNA samples. Once these samples have been identified, they are given to a DNA analyst for testing. Multiple processes with various reagents are done in order to release the DNA from the sample, separate cell materials from the DNA, and purify the DNA. The purified sample then goes through another test to determine if any DNA has been able to be extracted, and if so, how much. The results from that test are then used by the scientists to input the necessary amount of the sample into a system which targets 24 regions of DNA. It then dilates them. Too much or too little amount of the sample will not provide a good profile for interpretation. Finally, more reagents are added to the sample and then put into a machine which will provide the profiling results that then can be analyzed by the scientist. Once the scientist is able to analyze the results, they can then compare it against a sample from a suspect or consider entering it into the Combined DNA Index System, or CODIS. If the profile meets specific criteria to be entered, it can be ran against DNA collected within the lab or be ran against DNA in the state and federal databases to see if there is a match. Lieutenant Douglas will provide a conclusion to the Albert Lowleen homicide case, where DNA was also used to confirm the suspect.
An additional key piece of evidence in this case involved DNA evidence. A number of items were collected by the crime scene unit from Mr. Lowleen's home and later processed at the Midwest Regional Forensic Laboratory. One item, the broken end of a flashlight, was found to contain both Mr. Lowleen's and Isaiah Thomas's DNA. Because of the Midwest Regional Forensic Laboratory being co-located within the Anoka County Sheriff's Office, turnaround time on this case was extraordinary. Where normally we could have been waiting days, weeks, or even months, we were able to make an arrest within just over 2 days of discovering this horrible crime. Due to the overwhelming amount of forensic evidence in this case, Mr. Thomas ultimately pled guilty and was sentenced to life in prison, providing some closure and peace for a mourning family and a community shocked by this outrageous act.